Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Gardening Across the World. Today, I'm joined by a fantastic guest for me, someone that many of you may not recognize, but I'm hoping that some of you will. If you're a container gardener, or if you have a green stock, which are slowly increasing in number within the UK, then you'll know my guest, Megan. She's well known for her incredible amount of food she grows using just the GreenStalk tower gardens and fabric pot containers, proving that you don't need acres of land in order to grow well. In my conversation with Megan, what I'm hoping to do is we're going to talk honestly about what works and what doesn't, and what people with smaller spaces can achieve using containers and growing in small spaces. And we're also going to look at what is realistic and what is unrealistic in expectations. I thank you so much for having joined us today, and I'm going to get going. I'm not going to delay because I'm sure most of you are so excited to actually start this conversation. Megan, thank you so much and welcome.
Thanks for having me, Stella. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So one of the things I actually do when I actually start this conversation with all my guests is I start by asking you where you are in the world, what zone
Mhm.
that is, and what does it mean in terms of your climate and growing seasons.
Well, that's a great question. I actually was born and raised in the suburbs outside of Chicago. So I'm still kind of new to central Alabama, which is in the United States. And so I'm still trying to get used to their zone. It's much different than near Chicago, which is like zone 6AB. And
Hmm.
then here is zone 8B. So it gets very hot. It gets very
Yes.
muggy. Right now, surprisingly, it's very cold. But I am really liking growing here more so than outside of Chicago because I have a little bit longer of a growing season here.
Excellent, excellent. Because I spoke to Jenna on my last Gardening Across the World, and she's in Zone 6A, I think. And one of the key things with Zone 6A that I learned is the fact that they have more extremes of the weathers. So if it's hot, it's extremely hot. If it's cold, it's extremely cold. And that growing ends in winter because you have snow and very cold weather that doesn't allow anything to continue growing. And so now that you're in zone 8, have you actually seen that there is a huge difference in the fact that you're actually able to grow for a lot longer? And how is that making you feel?
Yeah, actually, I'm not super far from Jenna because I was able to watch a little bit and she said she was like border Indiana, Ohio. So I'm kind of like
Yes.
right across. Now, I've only gardened for 1 year in Illinois, so I don't have as much experience as I do here.
Hmm.
But since I grew up there, I can say that the weather is a lot more extreme when it gets cold and even in summertime. Whereas here, I feel like it's been quite mild. I mean, right now it's cold, but thankfully during the day, like today's going to get up to 50, even though it was in the
Wow.
teens at night. So
Yes.
that's going to help kind of.
Keep the
And
garden
so,
going.
yeah. And so that's what I've actually really have noticed since growing here is
Hmm.
how it's not too extreme here, except for the heat. I will say the heat's extreme.
Okay.
And that's where I'm actually, when it does get extremely hot, that's where I'm learning to figure out where to grow what, like shaded, full sun, because it is more extreme here during the summer.
Okay. Now, when did you start your gardening journey? Because that's another question I ask, because a few of my viewers are very fascinated by how did you get into gardening and where you're at now from when you first started?
Well, I actually gardened 1 year in Illinois. We had bought our first home and there was a little garden. I'm like, oh, I want a garden. And I wasn't entirely successful, but I didn't fail at everything.
Yes.
So I did a little bit there and then I hadn't done anything at all. And then we moved here to Alabama probably about 2021. And I was like, I need a garden. And we moved into our house, and then it was like one bed, then the second down to like 10 beds. And like, I think I have like 35 green stalks now. Like, I just ended up falling in love with it and just started gardening. So, pretty much since about, I want to say the end of 2021 ish, I started gardening. And I just I felt this sense to garden to grow food for my family. That was the first. I felt it was really important. I felt like I really felt like the Lord was leading me to garden. And then before you know it, it was probably about 2 years ago where I'm like, I think I need to share this with people and tell them that they can do it too.
Hmm.
Because if I can do it, like someone like me who has absolutely no education, I mean, I grew up in the suburbs, there's like no
Yes.
farming background. And in my growing up, probably, my great grandparents and stuff, but I didn't learn anything. And then I just fell in love with it. And then I fell in love with the idea of encouraging people to do it.
Yeah. Oh, that's a fantastic journey. And it's actually quite useful because if there's anyone out there who actually watches gardeners but is not a gardener themselves, that gives them hope that actually all you need to do is start. And when you start, you may actually find your journey is more fantastic than you think because sometimes we aim to for perfection before we actually go towards gardening. But I feel like being able to do it the way you did, which is you started with a small garden and then suddenly you had 6 beds. And then the GreenStalks came in. Now, where did the GreenStalks come in? Because that's something I'm really fascinated by.
Yes, I absolutely love them. So I saw them. I'm trying to remember what channel. It might have been Jess from Roots and Refuge. I can't
Hmm.
remember exactly,
Hmm.
but I had seen them like, let me try one out. And I had success with, I didn't have great success with cucumbers like I was hoping. They actually were like little balls.
Yes.
But then I had success with peppers and some other things. And I'm like, wow, you can grow a lot in a
Hmm.
small space. And I'm like, this is like genius. And this light bulb went off. And so we have a part of our driveway that gets most of the sun. So I've literally just filled it with green
Yes.
stalks.
Yes.
And I've been able to grow potatoes, sweet potatoes, strawberries, onions. I
Your
have,
onions.
did you see those?
Do you know, I've started growing onion and I was just like, what? Because I grew potatoes in it and I grew tomatoes and I grew green beans, but I had not considered onions in there. I've got all my green stores are full of garlic now and I've got onions sets going. And once they're ready, they're going into the green stalks. I'm like, green stalks are a little bit addictive. Shall we warn people
They
about that?
are. Yes, absolutely. They really are. I mean, I just want rows of them because of how
Yes.
much you can grow
Yes.
and they're successful. That's the thing. It's not like,
Exactly. Exactly.
you get it and like you might get one or two veggies. I mean, I still have onions that I harvested in June. They're still in my fridge right now
Wow.
since June.
Wow.
And I
Since
just cut
June.
one up. Yep. And I just cut one up last night for, to have for the week for fresh onion.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm excited. I want to plant another green stalk of onions to compare my backyard because my backyard gets sun but more shade, whereas my driveway gets most of the sun.
You'll probably get, I'm predicting that you'll probably get the bigger onions where you actually get most sun because of the fact that onions bulb with sunshine. If you have an, it require a certain amount of sunshine to reach their maximum growth capacity in terms of bulbing. So if you're the front ones, I'm predicting, we wait and see, but my prediction is
Yeah.
you will actually have bigger onions in the front than in the back. But even the back ones were huge.
Yeah, I had some in my beds too, and those actually turned out really good because I think onions
Hmm.
are great for companion planting.
Yes.
And I love all sizes of onions. I love big ones. I love really
Hmm.
tiny ones. So I think it's great to just stick them wherever,
Wherever, because
even if they don't bulb really big.
it's very true. Because sometimes you need a big onion for a certain type of dish, but then sometimes you need a smaller onion. And I personally dislike cutting an onion in half and leaving half. It's either
Yes,
I want to, I want to use it all or just
I
find
know.
one that is the right size. So that is
Right.
absolutely fantastic. Now, when you first got the green stock, did you think it was actually going to be a an additional small space rather than actually becoming almost your main growing space when you think that you've got 35 of them?
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect. I was just kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to try this out because there's so many pockets and it looks so fun.
Hmm.
But it wasn't until I started seeing success with it. And
Hmm.
then the way my brain works is once I have success with something or I see how something grows, whether it's a win or a failure, my what I'll start to do is think of like, well, what could I have done to make it a little better? And then I'll tweak it. And then every time I would tweak something and there was a little bit more success, I'm like, I really need to get another one. And maybe I can grow potatoes in this one. And maybe I could do sweet potatoes in this one. And then it just from there it just spirals into more green stalks.
I love your way of reflective gardening because I'm actually working towards encouraging people to be intentional in the way they garden because sometimes we get disappointed with our lack of success, but reflection is an important part of actually knowing what did I do? What could I do different? Exploring how I could grow differently to actually be more successful. Now, tying in with that, your channel is called Mustard Seed Homesteading. How would you describe your version of homesteading to someone with a very limited space?
Well, I will say, like, start wherever you're at. Even if it's just one green stalk, even if it's just a bucket, because I even made a video on I went to the grocery store and collected a bunch of buckets, and those didn't
Hmm.
cost me anything except for soil and seed.
Hmm. Yes.
And so I feel like just start wherever. And it's interesting you asked me that question because I recently just changed my banner to Homestead with Purpose. Embrace the
Yes.
failures and
Failures.
celebrate the wins, because
Yes, I saw it.
that's the thing about whenever you have a loss or a failure,
Mm,
what could you have done to change it? Don't look at it as, oh, I have a black thumb, I can't do it. Just think of like, well, what can you do differently? Or how can you experiment and change it so that you can have success? The other thing too about gardening that people don't realize is that every year is different too with the weather. So let's say you planted your green stalk in the same spot 2 years in a row. What you had one year, let's say you grew onions one year, the next year may be a little bit different because weather's also, it plays a part. And that's where we have to evolve and kind of change things up or move the green stalk here and try different varieties. For example, right now with our winter garden, usually Belstar and Desico do phenomenal for me. Well, they're not doing really great right now in like the winter. Usually they do really good in the spring. I've had more success in the spring going into summer.
yes.
However, this year I tried a variety, it's an F1 variety, but Monty and Imperial, and they are withstanding the cold. So here what I did, instead of just thinking, well, Desico and Valstar do great for me all the time, I'm trying different varieties to see what grows well with the season.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's also just really good to experiment and, switch things up.
Yeah. Now, what do you grow? If you were to think of the one thing that you never thought could actually grow in a container, what might surprise people to know you've grown successfully in either the green stalks or in your fabric pots?
I will say actually one thing that comes to mind is jicama. I don't know if you know
Mm-hmm.
that. It's
Yes,
a
I know.
heat
I know
lover.
what hick. Yes.
They do phenomenal in buckets and
Really?
bags. Oh, they do
Wow.
phenomenal. And so I want to test them out in the green stock this year. I want to make a whole green stock of jicama,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's a fabulous root veggie, especially because it's a heat lover.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think what else. Broccoli actually does
Yes.
phenomenal in fabric bags, as well
Okay.
as the green
Yes.
stalks.
Yeah. I've never actually tried broccoli, but I think in the coming season, I'm hoping to get one more. Shh, hubby doesn't know. No, but I'm trying to get one more. And I'm thinking of actually trying to grow some broccoli in there because I can actually net it off fully and protect them from the cabbage white butterflies. So hopefully it's going to go really well. So you were
I
talking
think you'll
about
like it.
I'm sure I will. I do love my broccoli. So you said your first season with the GreenStalk wasn't that successful. What did you expect and what actually happened?
Uh, Honestly, I don't know if I expected anything other than I was like, I'm just going to try this out and see what happens. I was a smidgen disappointed with the cucumbers, but then I'm like, you know what? It probably wasn't good for me to put it on the ground where it was sprawled out on the cement, so
Okay.
I'm like, that probably wasn't smart. And I didn't have their trellising system yet. So that was probably like, okay, I won't be doing that again. But I will say I had peppers growing on the top, bell peppers.
Mm-hmm.
And that surprised me in a positive way because they grew beautifully. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, wow. That's what inspired me to do a whole green stalk of peppers this year because I
Mm.
haven't really done them since my first year having it.
Okay.
And because they did so well.
Yeah, yeah. And in terms of your cucumbers, have you actually tried to grow them again within the green stalks?
You know what? I actually not that like a full size. I did try bush
Mm-hmm.
cucumbers, but they weren't as successful. So I probably, now that we're talking, I probably should add one to one of them this summer and just see how it
Yes.
goes again because I just haven't, just like the peppers, I just haven't planted them.
Yeah. And in terms of watering, how challenging do you find the watering and the fact that with the green stalks, for success, one of the key things is actually watering them well. How do you
Yes.
actually find it in terms of watering and making sure that you keep them all watered, considering you have 35?
Yes, I know. I haven't, well, and I actually haven't put all of them up yet because there was a big clearance sale. So I have a few of them just sitting in my garage, but I have 17 on my driveway. And then I have one, two, three, four, I think I five in the back. So,
Hmm.
okay, so like right now, I don't water as much. The one that I roll into my garage, the one that has those gorgeous cabbages on the top and the
Yes,
collards,
yeah.
that one I kind of water a little bit more often because I am rolling it in and out.
Hmm.
But during the summertime is where I find that I have to water it probably anywhere from 1 to 2 times a week. If it's really hot, definitely twice a week, maybe even three, just depending.
Okay. All right. And the ones that you haven't actually put all of them up yet. Do you have plans to put them up anywhere? Because I love your
I
blueberry and your blackberry ones. My God, those are like,
The blackberries, I know the blackberries so pretty with the kale and the green against it. I'm just like, are you kidding me? You're so pretty.
because I'm close to the deadline when the company that is bringing them here has the end of ordering. I think it's today, so I'm hoping to get a BlackBerry. And I'm like, no, 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 I can't be spending more money. I don't even know where I'm going to put it. But the BlackBerry is calling to me. It's like, come on, you know you
It's
want
so
me.
pretty. It is so pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, the blueberry and the terracotta have the garlic in it. I'm testing out the
Hmm.
garlic in the back.
Yes. And are there any crops that you could grow in your towers, but you choose not to because you feel they're not worth the space?
That's a great question. I'm trying to think. I don't think so. I think I kind of grew everything in there. I mean, cucumbers, I think maybe is one where I was like, I feel like it would be better on a large trellis. But
Hmm.
since we're talking, I might actually go back and try those. But I haven't found any vegetable that like worth trying. If anything, what I want to try to start doing is growing some other things that I've never tried or maybe others haven't tried just to
Yes.
experiment because I love to push the envelope and try new
Yeah.
things.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
look
yeah.
forward to seeing that. I look forward to seeing that. Now, I know that when I'm setting up my green stalk for the growing season, I will refresh the compost and I'll refeed it and then I'll set it up. And more often than not, I don't tend to give more feed because I have slow release fertilizer within the compost I use. Do you feel that people are more scared of growing in containers because they worry about the feeding? And how do you compare your container growing to your raised beds? Do you tend to feed them the same or slightly different?
So in the green stalks, I buy Fox Farm potting soil, which
Yes, yeah,
is
I've seen that.
I think they're out of California.
Hmm.
But I love everything that's in there. And
Hmm.
so I used to put black cow compost at the bottom and then that, but I've actually gotten away from that because I want it to be as loose as possible. So
Yes,
I've
yeah.
just used the Fox Farm. But as far as so it has wonderful, fertilizing and nutrition in there. But what I find with the green stock versus my bed, it's so much easier to fertilize the green stock because I use the Fox Farm liquid, just put a little
Yes.
bit in
The
water
water
and you
and
just
then
fill the
pour it.
top and it just makes
That's
my life
it.
easier.
You're done.
Whereas the bed's nice. I mean, it's not that hard, but I have to water each little,
Hmm.
square,
Hmm.
which is fine, but green stock, it's so much easier. I
Much
mean,
easier.
you're watering 30 to, 30 plus within a few minutes.
Yes, it's very true. That is very true. So what you're saying is it's actually a lot easier than people think, and they shouldn't shy away from container growing because of that, because it is much, much easier than they think.
Absolutely.
And what do you think the biggest misconception people have when they see a thriving green stalk online? When you have a green stalk that's growing well and looks beautiful, how many people do you think have some misconceptions about how it's been achieved?
That's a great question. I think if I were someone that was new to gardening and I saw that, I might be intimidated or think like I can't do that. But here's the thing with gardening is you just have to try.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You just have to do it and whatever failures come along the way,
Yeah.
those are the best learning experiences. Like that is the best teacher. I think failures and making mistakes are the best teachers because you know what not to do. And then
Yes.
from there, it's just a matter of figuring out what works. And
Mm-hmm.
then once you do, then you're very successful at, growing it. And here's the thing, every person has to learn, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
it's not like when I started gardening, it's not like I was a professional. I mean, I made
Hmm.
in fact, when I started gardening, Stella, I would get so frustrated because it's not like a black and white thing. It was very gray and there was like a lot of troubleshooting. And I'm like, there could have been this wrong with it, this wrong, this could have been wrong, maybe this could have been wrong. And I couldn't figure out what was always wrong. So I'm like, I finally just gave up and I'm like, well, we're just gonna keep trying every season. And so we're just gonna figure this out. And then I started getting success and I'm like, okay, you know what? This really isn't that hard. So yeah.
You make it look easy.
Right.
But I think it's your nature of not giving up. I think you try, but you don't allow your failures to actually put you down. You get up and you just keep going and say, okay, that didn't work. Let's do this. Let's do that. That's absolutely fantastic. I love that. Now, I've noticed that you got quite a few fabric pots, which I personally love because I actually grow in fabric pots at home in my home garden. And I've actually got them on self-wicking systems with just basic containers underneath them to actually maintain the watering so I don't have to worry about watering them. What actually drew you to starting to use fabric containers in addition to your raised beds and your green stalks?
Because I'm like, those are not that expensive. So I'm like, I'm going to get some fabric containers and they seemed fun to grow in.
Yes.
And so I will say one of my favorite things to grow in the fabric containers are bush tomatoes. I think they do phenomenal in there. I have 4 bags next to one of my beds, and this last summer I had bush tomatoes, like little Roma tomatoes, and they were one of my best producers in the grow bags.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
So I
Yeah.
think they're great.
Yeah, they are. I love them personally, especially when they're on a self-wicking system, as I've set them up in that I've got heavy duty containers underneath them. And then I've got wicking fabric, which goes into the container through a small hole and then sits on top. And then the fabric pot sits on top. So it's constantly watered. And all I do is refill my 40-liter reservoir and I add my fertilizer, my liquid fertilizer to it. And then it's a set it and forget it for like 2, 3 weeks. I don't have to worry about watering or anything.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, I feel like every time I see yours, I'm like, oh, you should try that. It will work so well. Especially since you're so busy. And I've grown fantastic aubergines. As you say, the bush tomatoes do really well. And I've got quite a few bush tomatoes that I'm growing this year. So I'm actually going to be utilizing that. If you were to choose between the green stalk and the fabric pots, I don't even know why I'm asking this. Which one would you choose and
The green
why?
stuff, because there's so much you could grow in within 2 square feet. I mean, I love my grow bags, but
Mhm.
the space it takes up on the ground and you know, one plant, depending on what size bag, right? If you have a 20, 25 gallon grow bag, you could grow a lot in there.
Yes.
However, the green stalk, you're talking 30 plus plants within
Hmm.
that same footprint or even smaller, because sometimes grow bags can be
True.
pretty wide. So, yeah, the green stalks for sure. And they're so, and I love my grow bags, but they're
Hmm.
not as pretty as the green stalk. And you could just, I don't know, they're gorgeous.
Yeah, now the green stalks just have beauty, especially if you have it full of plants and you have everything just cascading color. I just love them to bits. Now, if you have someone who has a small balcony or patio and that's all they have to start with, what would you suggest they start with in terms of container growing?
Definitely a green stalk if they can fit that size, like 2 feet, maybe 2.5, 3 for anything that might grow out a little wide.
Hmm.
I would definitely say a green stalk, even if it's a 3 tier, you know, if they can't do
Hmm.
the whole 5 or 7 tier, just because of how much they can grow in one spot. They could do a tier of
Exactly.
herbs, they could do a
Yeah.
tier of, you know, dwarf tomatoes, maybe,
Yeah.
you know, snacking peppers or
Peppers.
cucumbers. And
Yeah.
that's a lot of food right on your
It
balcony.
is. It is definitely. And do you feel that it's better to master one system before you expand to another one, or are you one of those who just wants to try everything at once?
That's my problem, Sal. When I go into something, I go all the way and I go crazy. I would suggest to do one thing at a time. Of course,
Hmm.
I did not do that. I did not do that. I was like, buckets, bags, green stalks, beds. Let's get it all done. Come on, come on, come on.
Out of curiosity, what did your husband think when you were doing all of that?
He actually built my first bed and he's a go-go person. Like he's busy working too. So he's just like, whatever you want, what, you know, But he loved the fact that I was growing food and was starting to see the success of it and was just,
Hmm.
excited about that. And he's obviously enjoying all the food that I'm bringing into the
Obviously,
house
yeah,
too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So
What do you think beginners tend to overthink a lot when they're actually trying to start growing, especially since you got quite a successful channel where you get a lot of questions? What are the kind of questions you get that you think are overthinking and people need to let them go and just get on?
that's a really great question. I'm trying to think. I haven't gotten a ton of questions. But if I were to say, sometimes like the question I had the other day, someone was asking about shallots and leeks and how to grow them in there. Because I plan to do a video on just onion starts and starting them and harvesting them in the green stalks.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were to say, like in general, overthinking would be trying to do too much troubleshooting, even though, and I can say this from experience that I learned to just like let it go and learn to observe. I actually just shared this in my green stalk video, and I was like, friends, learn to just take your time and come out and just observe how your plant's growing, observe how it's doing, and see, maybe go out there with a notebook and just take notes. And if it didn't work, write out what you were seeing and what you would change differently. That would probably be the only thing, because I overthought everything, which is why I
Mm-hmm.
got so frustrated. And I think, like sometimes I had questions, and they're valid questions, like, how much fertilizer should I give this? Or should I have used a different soil, or whatever the case may be? And those are good questions, but those
Mm-hmm.
are all questions where, maybe take 3 grow bags and
Yeah.
if you're curious about soil, do 3 different soils, grow the same variety, make everything the same, but maybe different soils. And then you can see what kind of soil you like. Or if you wanted to test out a fertilizer, fertilizers, you could do 3 different plants and use the 3 different fertilizers and just keep them all the same, but just make the fertilizer different. And then just observe and see how things work and what works best in your garden.
That's a very, very good advice is, try, don't give up and try different ways. Don't assume that because it didn't work this time, it won't work if you tweak something here and tweak something there. But observing as well, when you're actually talking about just step out there and observe, I actually thought, God, I need to start meditating in my garden. That's what came to mind. Is to just sit there on a mat and just to look around and look at what I'm growing and just let my eyes see what we probably don't always see when we're busy doing rather than actually observing. Actually, I will do that. I'll try and do that a lot more. Now,
Yeah.
does your family help with the actual side of gardening, aside from your husband helping you with trying to set up new beds and building platforms for your green stalks and your fabric pots? Does he actually help with the gardening itself?
No, I'm actually just me, myself, and I. Now, my oldest, sometimes I'll have her during the summertime, I'll have her watering, but we're actually going to be changing stuff up back there. So I wouldn't need her as much except for
Hmm.
watering the green stalks, which for her, that's super easy because she just stands there with the hose. But no, it's just me, unless I ask her to like help with the watering or something. But
Yeah, yeah, because I
yeah.
find that I'm just by myself. But you know what? That's all right because it's my thing. And some people are, but they should help. And I'm like, no, this is my thing, and my joy is in
It is.
providing them with what they need to eat. But ultimately, this is my thing, so it's all right. It's absolutely fine. So. If you are okay, we're actually going to move on to a section. I don't know if you've ever watched any of the gardening across the world, but we have a desert island garden section. In this section, you
Oh,
actually put on a desert island and you're sent to a desert island and you're only allowed one green stalk. What's the crops you would plant in that green stalk to help you survive?
oh, that's a great question. Definitely garlic because it's used medicinally
Mm-hmm.
and it tastes fabulous. Let's see, if I had one tier, I would do garlic and then onion, and then probably for sure some tomatoes. And then I would do, okay, so if it was up to me, let's say it was a 5 tier.
Yeah,
Okay.
5 tier original is what we're talking about.
Yep. I would do garlic. Let's see, probably like 3 garlic, 3 onion. I would
Mm-hmm.
probably do tomatoes, and then probably 2 tiers of potatoes because those are great calories.
Yes.
And And then I don't know, maybe either pepper or sweet potatoes on the bottom because, I would
Mm-hmm.
need my carbs
Yes, that's
to
a full meal
survive.
there, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's
That is
absolutely
a great
fine.
question. I never really thought of,
Yeah,
I've never thought of it that way. Yeah.
yeah. And then if you could only grow three plants for the rest of your life, which ones would they be? Only
Definitely
three.
potatoes.
Uh-huh.
So
Which ones?
potatoes,
Sweet or the
regular white potatoes.
mm-hmm.
Just like russet potatoes would be
Russet
my
is for
favorite because I
yeah,
get, yeah, those do the
yeah.
best. So
And they have the
russet,
best flavor.
they grow big too. So russet, garlic, and probably tomatoes again, because I feel like tomatoes you can just, I don't know, they just taste so good and they do really good in the green stalks.
Yeah, and when they're homegrown, they actually taste so well in sauces
Mm-hmm.
or eaten raw. So they give, versatility. And what's the one gardening tool that you would have on your island if you could only have the one tool?
What are a dibbler?
What's that? Oh, the dip.
So it's, yeah, the dibbler so that, you can just make a nice little hole and stick your plant in there. And I love that tool. That one's probably my favorite.
Okay, so you have communication that tells you that regardless of the fact that they can't rescue you from this island, they'll provide you with one growing medium forever, but you have to make a choice. They can only give you one. They can either give you compost or they can give you coco coir or they'll give you topsoil. Which one would you choose and why?
So you said compost, cocoa core, and what was the third one?
Topsoil.
Compost, hands down.
Hmm. Hmm. Why?
Because I think, here's another thing that I would love to take the time to learn. Because I always think, back in the day, they didn't have stores where you bought soil
Hmm.
and fertilizer. So they used a lot of compost, and that
Hmm.
actually turned into their soil.
Yes.
And so for me, I think that is the most, at some point, I would really like to experiment with that. I just haven't gotten to that point yet because I've been
Hmm.
just trying to learn how to garden. So I've been
Yes.
buying a lot of my soil at the stores, which there's nothing wrong with that. But
Yeah.
I do want to get to a point where I can learn how to just compost and act as though if there, like there was no store to go get soil,
That's a
then what would
nice
I
one.
do?
Yeah, that's something that you can actually set up because I actually compost in heavy duty dustbins that I've actually added holes into, and then I added some composting worms, and then all I do is just put all my food waste in there and my garden waste in there. And I'm due to actually harvest them this coming year because I think I've got quite a lot of vermicompost in there that is waiting for me because I just keep adding, 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 but I've never harvested. I'm good at making the compost. I think what I need to get better at is at harvesting it and actually utilizing it in my garden. So it will be pulled out this year. So definitely, I look forward to seeing you start that journey because it is a fun journey that will have you,
I know
obsessed
I've
as well.
I know I've seen others and others do that. And I've also been to, so there's a gentleman redeeming the dirt. His name's Noah Sanders. He actually had, I went to one of his conferences a couple
Mm-hmm.
years ago and he did a whole composting class and I was able to learn hands-on. It was a really neat method. And I want to get to a place where I can do that myself.
I'm actually just writing that down because that speaks to me.
Yeah.
Anything to do with soil and composting, I do love so much. And which plant do you love even though it never behaves itself?
Oh gosh, plants that don't behave. Probably cauliflower. I've
Mm-hmm.
grown it. I want to say it was my second year growing in the GreenStalks.
Mm-hmm.
I had the most beautiful cauliflower head. It was gorgeous. But
Mm-hmm.
I've always kind of had a hard time with cauliflower. I've actually had
Mm-hmm.
more success with broccoli than cauliflower.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really sure why. I'm still actually testing out some other varieties. So I'm determined to get those
Yes.
cauliflowers growing.
If funnily enough, that is the one crop I'm trying to do better with this year because, like you, I've grown it, but I always end up with very tiny heads or it bolts before it actually grows. So this
Yes.
year, my focus is on getting a beautiful big head of cauliflower, which I'll harvest and it will have not a single blemish on it. At least that is my hope.
Yeah, same here.
But we shall wait to see. But that is my goal for this year because I was thinking in terms of being intentional is to improve one thing each year in my growing. And I felt that, okay, this year I'm going to focus on improving my growing of cauliflower because I grow beautiful broccoli. I get massive big heads of broccoli without effort. So why can't I do that with cauliflower? I grow beautiful cabbages. Why can't I do that with cauliflower? Cauliflower and I are having a fight this year.
Yeah,
We're going to have a
that's
conversation
too
with the
funny.
seedlings and tell them, you are growing fantastic this year. You are going to make Stella proud.
But
We shall see how it goes. But honestly, I get you when you say cauliflower is the one plant that never does what you want it to do. And do you have any gardening beliefs that you have completely changed your mind about because of your experience in the garden?
I would say my expectations and feeling like I have to get everything done. I've
Hmm.
kind of learned to just let things be. I mean, I do find that I have to work in my garden and things have to get done, but I've kind of learned to like let things go when things don't go the way that I want them to. Um, because I tend to take things very seriously and I'm a very regimen person, but it's taught me to be patient. It's taught me to like really just let things be,
Yes.
which is one of the things that I'm so grateful that I've learned from gardening because I've used that in my personal life. Like it's taught me
Yes.
so much
Yes.
just to be patient and let things just be the way that they are.
That is absolutely fantastic. Now, I actually just remembered that I have a quick fire question section that I've been asking everyone. And I'm actually going to see whether or not I can find it because I'd love to know what your answers would be on this one. And the first one of those is one crop you will never stop growing.
Tomatoes. I mean, it has because I mean, there's so much you could do, and my husband loves this salsa recipe that his mom made, and I've learned to make it with onion and garlic, and it is fantastic. I mean,
Excellent.
it's so delicious.
Fantastic. You, all three people I've asked this have all said exactly the same thing, tomatoes.
Tomatoes.
And do you have a crop you're taking a break from?
Hmm. Well, I have to think about that. Last year, I took a break from pumpkin.
Why?
I think because I didn't know. Well, actually, I don't think there was any like particular reason. I think I just didn't have a space for it because I wanted to focus on watermelon and cantaloupe. And I was like, well, I don't eat a lot of pumpkin. So I'm like,
Hmm.
I could skip this year. So it's probably pumpkin, although I think I'm going to try growing pumpkin again because it is a great source of food and nutrition for like the dogs. We have two
Hmm.
dogs. And so
Yes.
the pumpkin that I had gotten last year it was not from my garden, but I had made a pumpkin powder because I have a freeze dryer.
Hmm.
And so I will sprinkle that pumpkin powder on their food so that they
Yes.
can get that extra nutrition. So pumpkin, but I think I'm going to try growing it again this year.
Fantastic. And one gardening job you secretly love?
I would say when the seedlings are ready to plant
Hmm.
and I go out there with my little tray of seedlings and I plant those. Because although I don't know, I kind of enjoyed watering because of the water grids and the GreenStalks are easy to water and that's kind of
Hmm.
relaxing.
Hmm.
Oh, probably one of those. Either one. I don't know. There's a couple of them.
When you're planting your seedling, you're using your little dibber, aren't you?
No, the dibbler, yeah. I love it, especially with my beds, the grids. So I'll go out
Yes.
there and the bed will be ready, and then I'll just go out there with the dibbler, like just do, and then take the seedlings and just put them in there, and
Yeah.
it's very satisfying.
Satisfied. I love the way you've gridded up your raised beds because I like square foot gardening and it reminds me of that. So that is something I really love. Now, one job you always procrastinate about.
Probably pruning. I mean, I enjoy pruning, but when you have like a bunch of tomato plants, it gets
Yes.
to be a
Yeah.
lot. In fact, this last year, I was like, you know what? I did a little bit of pruning, but I kind of just let the tomato plants do their thing. And unless I saw a problem and I, did a little bit of pruning, but I did less pruning and I had a fantastic harvest.
Yeah. That's exactly what I found because what I did is I pruned my tomatoes for the first 1 foot from the ground. And then when they went above that foot, that was it. I just let them do what they wanted. And they did brilliant. As long as they had space and they were breathing, I just left them and my produce was absolutely fantastic. So maybe in pruning and trying to train them, we actually cause them more stress and we lose out on what we would actually get in terms of produce. So you never know. So
Yes, I know what you're saying.
yeah. Tea or coffee in the garden?
Do I have tea or coffee in the garden?
Yeah.
You know, you know what I have had like during the really hot months, not during the
Yeah.
cold months, but the hot months, I will go out there with like my mint tea, like mint water. I'll take my water
Yes.
and I'll put
Yeah.
mint in there. It is,
Lovely.
and with a little bit of lemon juice, it is so
Yeah.
delicious.
And do you ever listen to anything when you're in the garden? Anything like music, podcasts, or do you prefer silence?
Actually, silence. I love to hear nature and I just want to like be out there and just listen. The other thing too is, especially during the summertime, because there are snakes here,
Yeah.
I want to be ultra aware. I'm not used to snakes. My husband actually killed a timber rattlesnake in the backyard garden. Yeah, it kind of freaked me out.
Hmm.
But, it didn't keep me away from being in the garden, but I want to be aware, but I also just want to take in being out there with just the noises and nature and things like that.
What kind of protections can you put up against snakes? Is there anything you can do?
Definitely wear boots, that's for sure.
Yes.
Other than making sure things aren't on the ground, from my understanding, they like to go under, like logs or big branches and hide under things. So my pallets back there are probably not the best to have back there because they could hide under there, which we're actually going to be switching some stuff around for a little bit more safety and ease on, bending down and stuff for my back. But probably being aware of just, like, looking around. I mean, I've tried, like, little snake packs, but, when it rains and stuff like that,
They don't
I mean,
last
it
long,
really
do they?
doesn't.
No, no,
No. So,
no.
yeah, it's probably just being very aware.
Have you considered growing? I don't know if it does work. I don't know which plants. They're plants like snake plant. I know there's a plant called snake plant which deters snakes. There are plants that you can grow that are supposed to keep snakes away from the compound because I grew up in Uganda and because there are a lot of snakes, what I've noticed when I've been back now is a lot of people are growing plants that are supposed to deter snakes from entering the compound in their gardens because snakes do
That's
still kill
good.
people. Yeah, so it's worth investigating the different plants that will deter snakes if you have them peppered around your garden and compound.
That's good. Yes, I had heard that, and I definitely this year, I need to look into that more
Yeah.
because, yeah, they scare me.
Yeah, yeah. Where I grew up, the first house I remember living in, my dad actually had a stick specifically for killing snakes, and he used to kill
Wow.
at least four or five sometimes in a week because there were that many. And it's also to do with the trees as well. So when you have trees, then because you do have some snakes that actually hunt in trees, and those are the scary ones because they hunt birds.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Wow, interesting. I didn't know that.
yes. Yeah, yeah. And when they decide to move, they can move really, really fast. I was like, but yeah, no, so
Yeah, they do. They're really scary.
absolutely. And now, last but not least, thank you so much for this time with me. But before we go, can you tell people where they can find you? And if they're coming to you for the first time, which video would you recommend as their first introduction to you?
Well, definitely I have an introduction video to mustard seed,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that really kind of just explains like why I'm starting the channel because this is just my journey and I'm sharing it with everybody.
Hmm.
But after that, definitely the backyard garden and the GreenStalks. I do weekly backyard garden tours because I want everyone to see the progress from week to
Hmm.
week.
Yes.
Well, first of all, my channel is Mustard Seed Homesteading, so you can find me on
Yes.
YouTube. I also am on Instagram. I'm in the works of getting a Facebook page put together for that as well. But my goal is to do weekly garden tours. That was what I wanted to do in the beginning as I learned, like, what is it do I want to do for my channel? And I harvest weekly. And the reason I do tours and a harvest is because I want to show that there's always something you can harvest out of the garden, even if it's an herb.
It's very true.
And so I want to encourage people by showing that every week. And then I think I'm actually going to be upping the GreenStalk garden tours. Instead of
Hmm.
once a month, I'm going to be doing 2 a month.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are interested in the containers, especially when they don't have the space, which is why I wanted to talk to you today to hear about your process with your green stalks and how you actually grow in them. Because if anyone is interested in container gardening, even if you're not getting a green stalk, it's worth checking out Megan's channel because she does so much within containers that if you ever thought it's impossible, you just have to go check her out and you will find that it is absolutely fantastic and it is possible. Megan, thank you so much. Thank you very, very
Oh,
much.
thanks, Stella. This was so fun. I hope I get a chance to meet you sometime. I would
Oh,
absolutely love
definitely.
that.
No, it would be fantastic. It would definitely be.
Yeah.
We're empty nesters, but at the moment there are things that are going on, which means